The recent increase in the price of silver and gold, I think, is bringing a lot of new people into this hobby of stacking and collecting. I think that's a really, really good thing. I like that a lot. And my channel focuses on kind of bridging the gap between stacking physical precious metals and also coin collecting because there's so much overlap between the two. But if you are new, I wanted to give you a little bit of a word of caution about how sometimes unscrupulous dealers or sellers manipulate images of coins in such a way that it makes the coin appear that it's probably better than it is. So let's talk about that type of manipulation that can happen if you're not being careful. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dub C, and I want to thank you for spending some time with me here today, especially if you are brand new to this whole concept of stacking physical precious metals and collecting coins. If you are new to the channel, I'd love to have you click on that subscription button, become part of this community. Remember, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe to a channel. It's really just a way to show support. And if you're one of my returning subscribers, I'm going to ask for your help towards the end of this video, as I often do. I would love to hear your anecdotes about this subject of image manipulation and if it's ever happened to you and what the result of it was. If you're new to the channel, I like to begin my videos with a simple disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not trying to offer you any kind of financial advice. I'm simply trying to share some of my experience having bought and sold precious metals and rare coins for the last 30 or 40 years. And I also like to begin my videos where I can with a couple of definitions that we can kind of fold back into the subject that we're talking about. So we're talking about image manipulation in an effort to try to squeeze more money out of the unsuspecting buyer. And there's two topics that I want to talk about here as we get further into this. The first one is the idea of a third-party grader. A third-party grader is something that came about in really the 1980s, and it's supposed to be an independent organization that you can send your coin to, and for a small fee, they will authenticate the coin, and they will also offer their opinion as to the grade of the coin. Coins are graded on the Sheldon grading scale of 1 to 70, and that's all about the preservation of the details of the coin. A coin on a scale of 1 to 70, with 1 being kind of theoretically bad and 70 being theoretically good. So everything will fall on that same continuum at some point. And by having experts who know what they're looking for attest to the grade, you are putting yourself in a position where those pieces can be sold, or if you're just a collector, where they can be collected and you're getting the highest possible grade, the highest possible return on your investment when it comes time to sell. The nice thing about these third-party graders is that they put the coins that they've graded in these plastic holders. We call these holders slabs in the community. And the idea of these slabs is that they're not to be messed with. You can't open these up without breaking them. The coins are kind of sonically sealed inside of them. And that goes to the whole idea, the whole concept of protecting the quality of the coin, but also making it easier to sell this piece when it comes time to sell. If they didn't make these coins sealed so that you can't open them up and take the coin out, it would be very easy to simply replace your coin with a lower quality coin and sell it to an unsuspecting buyer. So the idea is that you can't open these without breaking them open. We call that cracking open the slab. The idea of a third-party grader. The other concept I wanted to talk about is the concept of a proof coin. A proof coin is a coin that's made specifically for collectors. And while there are all sorts of different finishes on a proof, and the idea of a proof is it's supposed to be kind of the highest quality coin that a mint can make. In the United States of America, we specialize in making coins that have a very mirrored surface. That's what our typical traditional proof coins are like. Proof coins can have a very matte finish, a very kind of a dusty looking finish, but it's really those mirrored finishes that really kind of defines what a proof is in the United States in the later 20th century and early 21st century. So these proof coins have very reflective mirror-like fields, and sometimes the devices, the image of liberty or the words, are very white looking by comparison, kind of a dusty white, and that provides a really interesting and beautiful cameo effect when you hold that coin in light. We'll take a look at a proof-like coin here in just a moment, and that's why I wanted to kind of define what a proof was. So the idea of manipulation, right? If you are buying an American Silver Eagle or a Canadian Gold Maple, as long as that coin is authentic, it's difficult to manipulate the quality of that piece. If it's really badly damaged, you can clearly see that with the naked eye. But sometimes that's not the case when it comes to rare coins. Much of their value is often based on that state of preservation. And just as a quick aside, it doesn't really matter how shiny a coin is. If you're new to this hobby, I like to say that we don't clean coins. A clean coin is not typically something that a sophisticated buyer, a collector, or a dealer wants. Even if the coin is darkly toned, most of the time we would much rather have that authentic, natural dark tone than a coin that has been artificially shined. So it has very little to do with the shine of the coin. It's all about the state of preservation. The idea of manipulating images is something that people have asked me about a lot recently. There have been collectors who send me images of coins that they are thinking about buying, and almost always it comes down to a group of a few sellers on venues like eBay who have become masters of manipulating images through all sorts of means to try to make a coin look nicer than it is. And I'm going to show you some examples with a piece like this. This is an ICG 1885 O. This is an 1885 O. O is New Orleans mint. And this is a Morgan dollar. It's one of the most popular coins for collectors and also silver stackers, because these have just about 3/4 of a troy ounce of pure silver in them. But if you're trying to collect these, this is a particularly nice example in terms of its reflectivity. So this, while it is not a proof, and it looks a lot like a proof, what I was just talking about, this is what we would call a proof-like coin. And proof-like coins are also very desirable to collectors. A lot of people really like them. By comparison, this is an ICG MS62. That's mint state 62 on that Sheldon scale of 1 to 70. So this is a pretty high state of preservation. This is a very similar coin. This is also a Morgan dollar, and this is also an MS62. But you see how little this one is reflective versus this one. That is just like a mirror. You can see even my camera stand in the background in the shirt that I'm wearing. This one is a beautiful coin, but it doesn't have anywhere near that same reflectivity of it. Let's see if we can get some of this mirror-like finish appearing here on this coin, this example. So ICG is not a top-tier third-party grader. The top-tier third-party graders that I have in my collection would be NGC, PCGS, and CAC, or CACG as they're sometimes known. It is important to understand, if you're new to this, that some of the people that try to put coins in holders, and it's important to understand that there is no laws that mandate or oversee what a coin's grade is. Anybody can put any coin in any holder that they want to and give it any grade that they want to. There's no governing body that oversees this. And that's the reason that some people who are new to this sometimes get tricked into buying something at a higher grade than it would normally be considered. Some of these early third-party graders were actually just dealers who put their coins in a holder. They tried to make the holder look like the top-tier third-party graders. And what is particularly maddening is sometimes they even gave their names a name that sounded suspiciously similar to those top-tier third-party graders. But if you had a legitimate coin that was graded at MS65 in an NGC holder, and some dealer decided to come up with a coin company called MGC and gave it a 65 grade, you could see how that would confuse somebody who was brand new to this. And the difference in value between a legitimate third-party grader's higher graded coin and one of these fly-by-night dealers who don't stand behind the quality of their grading service can be enormous. It can be tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But let's go back to our example of this ICG coin. This is an MS62. And an MS62 is not an especially high mint state grade. Coins graded from 60 to 70 are what we call mint state. That's the MS designation there. But because this is so beautifully reflective, I think that most people would be interested in buying this coin as a nice example of a proof-like or semi-proof-like Morgan dollar. If this was a real proof Morgan dollar, it would be worth thousands and thousands of dollars. But because this one is semi-proof-like, it is very attractive. Here's the reverse of this piece also. I think the reverse of this, the back of this, is actually in better preservation than the front is, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So you can see how reflective this is. We call this luster. You can see these spokes here. I like to call them spokes. moving back and forth as the coin moves through light. We call that cartwheel luster, and it really does provide a beautiful contrast, a lustrous looking coin. There you can see it moving back and forth like hands on a clock there. Really attractive. Incidentally, I'm wearing a bright red shirt, and you can see it kind of reflected as I tilt the coin in light. That's important. One of the ways that people manipulate the images of coins is simply by tilting the coin within the holder, and sometimes even outside of the holder. This coin has been given a 62 grade because it has a lot of what we might call chatter in the fields. You see all these little marks in the fields. Those aren't supposed to be there. Coins were originally Morgan dollars were loaded into great big canvas sacks and chucked on the back of a train. And because of that, they bumped up against each other. And every time they did, they got little contact marks, chatter marks all over them. Bag marks is sometimes what they're called. If this didn't have those, this coin would look phenomenal and it would be worth a lot of money. But with these contact chatter marks that you see in the fields and on Liberty's cheek, we've taken this grade down. 62 is probably appropriate. Some people might see this as a 63 because of the reverse being so beautiful. I might be inclined to agree with them. If this reverse had a lot of chatter on it too, and it doesn't really seem to, it might actually be closer to a 61 or even a 60 in terms of its grade. But as I said before, you can see just how tilting this coin, you can kind of hide some of those chatter marks that might otherwise appear. And I've got some examples. I'll go ahead and show you several pictures of how I photographed this coin just a few minutes ago. And I left the coin in the exact same orientation on the exact same background. I didn't change the lighting. I simply used a trick of kind of changing a foreground that I was using as I was taking these images. So we'll start with what I kind of feel is the neutral image. This is how we would typically see a Morgan silver dollar, and our example from this A&A slab is a much closer example of how it looks. We're just looking at a typical silvery looking Morgan dollar. You're looking at that image here, and you can see what I'm talking about. By using the correct foreground that the coin is reflecting up into, you can see that you can hide a lot of the chatter and a lot of the bag marks on this particular coin. This is what I would consider to be the neutral image. This is what you would expect to see if somebody had posted an image like this on eBay. I would be a little bit skeptical. You should always be skeptical of a still image, right? That's probably the most difficult thing to appraise a coin at. A lot of dealers won't even look at an image of a coin when they are trying to appraise its value. It's important to have that coin in hand or maybe even have a video image of it as well. But I like the kind of neutral image. Let's go to the next picture. I said before that I was wearing a red shirt. This is kind of that red reflected in the background. Now, your eyes may not pick up the red, but your brain is picking up that the coin looks reflective. And a lot of dealers want you to see that reflectivity. It's not necessarily the typical mirror background that we saw when I was holding this coin up to the camera, where you can see that just how black and white that coin is. But the reflectivity of the coin is something that your brain registers, and we kind of like that. So this would be a little bit of a manipulation, knowing that psychologically you're picking up on the red, even though you might not necessarily see the red. It still shows that the coin is reflective. Now compare that with what I consider to be the black and white or the cameo image of this coin. And remember, I haven't moved the coin. It is completely stationary. This just has to do with a slight change in the camera angle and what the coin is reflecting up into that I have next to my camera. You can see just how black and white this looks. That's why we call this cameo. The fields are black. The devices are that white cameo effect. And it looks very attractive. Note that you can see a lot of those contact marks that we talked about earlier. And I did that intentionally. I wanted to be able to illustrate that you can manipulate the background color, and sometimes you can hide those bag marks if you want to, but sometimes you also have the ability to highlight them, to bring them forward, to make them a lot more obvious. But you can tell just how significantly different this coin is, especially from that first image that was that traditional silvery colored silver dollar image. Now I want you to compare the black and white image with the full white image that you're seeing right here. This is a way that you can completely hide, or almost completely hide, all of those pesky contact marks. And remember, when a dealer or a seller is trying to get you to buy a coin, they're going to try to manipulate those images in such a way that it looks more favorable to them. And if you don't understand how easy it is to change the appearance of the coin through nothing other than just using something in your hand while you're photographing it, and we're not even talking about photoshopping something, changing the lighting on something, all of those techniques are also used. You can see just how easy it is to manipulate the image of a coin to reflect the way that the dealer or the seller wants you to see it. And that's the problem. Now, this is particularly devious when a dealer or a seller has submitted coins or bought coins that have been submitted to a third-party grader. Because sometimes coins are damaged, sometimes they're in really bad condition, sometimes they have deep scratches or gouges in them. We mentioned before about the concept of cleaning a coin, how we don't clean coins because dealers and collectors like the authenticity of a coin that hasn't been cleaned. But that doesn't stop people from cleaning coins sometimes, and most of the reputable third-party graders do not like to see clean coins, and they will put the coin in something called a details holder. And a details holder means that instead of providing a numeric grade like we see here with this 62, it would just say mint state details, improperly cleaned or scrubbed or polished or chiseled or smoothed. There's 1,000 different ways that people have tried for decades and decades, and probably even longer, to make a coin look better than it really is. These unscrupulous dealers know that they can buy these problem coins that have come from a third-party grader, and they buy them at a fraction of the cost of what a genuinely graded mint state coin, for example, would sell for. That way they know the coin is authentic and they know the approximate grade of that piece, whether it's extremely fine details, about uncirculated details, or even uncirculated details. The details is the part that really brings the value of these pieces down because this coin has problems. And that's why the third-party grader put it in a details slab. So these unscrupulous buyers are buying these pieces. They are cracking these pieces out. Remember that they paid a fraction for what these coins might sell for if they weren't in a detail slab. And then through the same techniques of manipulating the images, they are changing the quality of the coin, at least in the images that you are seeing. And believe me, if I could do this in a few moments, taking a few pictures based on the angle of my phone or what I'm holding in my hand, people who do this for a living have entire setups of how they manipulate these images. Now, it's important to understand that they aren't manipulating these images in a material way. They're not using Photoshop to change the coin. At least we hope they're not, right? They're not using digital effects to enhance the qualities of the coin or hide those qualities that they're trying to hide. At least we hope they aren't doing that. And the reason that I keep saying that is because a lot of venues don't allow you to change images materially like that. And these people who do this, who buy these details graded coins and try to pass them off to unsuspecting buyers, try to play within the very edges of those rules and still try to circumvent getting busted by whatever venue they're selling them on, because they want to continue to sell these pieces on their websites and make the money that they can make from these. So they are masters at manipulating these pieces the same way that I've just showed you. Let's walk through these again really quickly while I'm talking so you can see just how easy it is to get these coins to tell the story that you want to tell. These people know exactly what they're doing. This is one of the reasons why, if you are brand new to this and you see a coin that is being offered and you look it up in your red book, incidentally, I just did a video on how to use the red book. That's kind of the guidebook Bible of coin collecting for United States coins. You'll find a link to it down below. If you find it priced in the red book, or if you look at previous sales on eBay and you find an example that is sold for thousands and thousands of dollars, but this one seller on eBay is selling a coin that looks amazing, and you are convinced that it too is a high-grade coin that should be worth thousands and thousands of dollars, stop. Stop right there And remember old Dub C's images and how easy it is to manipulate them. This is especially true if you come across one of these rare and valuable coins that is not in a reputable third-party grader's holder. Believe me, a sophisticated dealer knows that it is infinitely easier to sell a valuable coin when it is in a reputable third-party grader's holder. And again, the third-party graders that I know and trust, NGC, PCGS, and CAC. These dealers know that they can add 20 or 30 or 40% to the value of their very rare coin and make it much, much easier to sell if it is in one of these third-party graders holders. And all of them have memberships to these third-party graders, and all of them send material to these third-party graders constantly. So your first red flag is, why is this coin not in a reputable third-party graders holder? That's your first red flag. Your second red flag is that these dealers know the value of their merchandise. There is no such thing as a free lunch when it comes to numismatics. Now, every once in a while, if you are an expert and you've been studying a particular area of coin collecting for a long time, you might be able to pick out that one needle in a haystack that the dealer didn't know what he had, that the other collector didn't know what they had. Sometimes we call that cherry picking. But that comes with years of experience and years of exposure to coins. If you are new to this and you are looking for a rare coin and you go to a venue like eBay and you see a coin that's been listed that is a rare coin that they are calling exactly what it is, and it's being offered for a fraction of its typical retail price, stop. That's a red flag. That person is intentionally trying to sell you something that you are believing is worth a lot more than it really is. Remember, these sellers know exactly what that coin would be worth if it were genuinely the grade that they are implying that it is, especially when they're using those images, and especially when that coin is not in a reputable third-party grader's holder. There is no such thing as a free lunch. And if there is, it's the kind of thing you would stumble on accidentally. It's not the kind of thing that you're going to see on eBay that 10,000 other people have already seen and understood it to be what it is. That's not the way cherry picking works. So the manipulation of images, just one of the many ways that people can make a coin look better than it actually is, especially if you are new to the hobby of coin collecting. If you have questions about the ease with which you can manipulate an image or any of the other things that we talked about here today, by all means, leave a question down below. I like to say if you have a question, there's a good question or the good possibility that somebody else has the same question. Maybe they're just afraid to ask it. Go ahead and ask away. There are no stupid questions on my channel. I will try to answer it if I can come up with a logical way to answer your question. If you are new to the channel, once again, I want to ask that you subscribe to the channel, but go ahead and hit that notification bell also. I premiere brand new videos almost every Friday, and I'm usually there during the premiere so that we can all watch the video for the first time, and I can answer your questions in the chat that goes on the side of the video as that video is premiering for the very first time. But we also often go live immediately after that premiere with something that we call a live stream. And that's just a live interface where you can interact with me, ask me questions, make comments and statements. You can talk with other people in the community. Typically, we make these live streams kind of loosely based on whatever video just premiered, whatever that topic was. But we also open the floor as long as it's rare coin or precious metals related. The floor is wide open. These are a fun, fast-paced way to start the weekend. I really enjoy these live streams, and I encourage you to come to the live stream immediately after this video's premiere. I like to end my videos by saying, always be learning. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey as we go deeper into the world of coins and physical precious metals.